Yes, welcome to the last presentation with the topic NMR application for coffee authenticity control. I would like to start with the definition of authenticity, but authenticity is a very complex issue that has not been regulated in a uniform manner. In relation to coffee, authenticity can imply several things. For example, the species of the coffee should be known. Important here is the distinction between Coffea arabica and Coffea canephora. Also, the geographical origin is important, especially if it's a region with a label such as protected designation of origin or protected geographical indication. These higher economical values are justified by unique quality characteristics. The cultivation method should distinguish between organic and conventional agriculture, and it is also important that the coffee is free from adulteration, such as blending with non-coffee products. For analytics, this means that sometimes a single parameter is not sufficient to make an assessment regarding authenticity. One method for regarding several parameters is the nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy, short NMR. NMR methods are useful to characterize food matrices in terms of authenticity and allow the identification of counterfeits. This either can be done with targeted or non-targeted analysis. In targeted analysis, only certain ingredients which properties and structure are known are investigated. Other substances that may be present in the sample are ignored. In a non-targeted analysis, both the known and unknown substances which are present in the sample are investigated. NMR is an analytic technique which uses a strong magnetic field to investigate qualitative and quantitative parameters. These can be the identification of a structure or the determination of quantities. Using a strong magnetic field, individual atomic nuclei, such as hydrogen, generate a signal. This signal depends on the direct chemical surrounding of the hydrogen nucleus in a molecule. The NMR measurement with the detection of all signals results in an NMR spectrum, which is shown here. If a molecule such as acetic acid is measured with nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy, every hydrogen nucleus generates a signal. At this position here, there are 3 hydrogen nuclei, and they are all bound to the same carbon. So they have the same chemical surrounding and produce one signal, which is located here in the NMR spectrum. At this position here, this hydrogen nucleus is not bound on carbon, but on oxygen. So it has a different chemical surrounding and produces another signal, which is located here in the NMR spectrum. If every hydrogen nucleus produces a signal, the NMR measurement of a coffee extract with its many different components results in an NMR spectrum with a large number of signals. But the signals of individual components appear in certain regions of the NMR spectrum. For example, hydrogen nuclei of fatty acids produce signals which are located here in the NMR spectrum. The hydrogen nuclei of acetic acid and chlorogenic acid produce signals which are located here in the NMR spectrum. In the middle of the NMR spectrum, hydrogen nuclei of caffeine produce signals, and there are also signals produced by the hydrogen nuclei of chlorogenic acid and fatty acids. But these hydrogen nuclei have a different chemical surrounding than the hydrogen nuclei here in the front. On the left side of the NMR spectrum, hydrogen nuclei of formic acid, trigonelline, and methylpyridinum and caffeine produce signals. I think we have a technical problem here. Maybe I need some help.
Just try again. I think one page is missing. Is that
No,
possible?
I think it's just not. No, that's the next page, I think. So, oh no, that's the sample preparation is missing, yes.
Yeah, I think one page is missing for some reason.
I think the page of the sample preparation is missing. I will just explain it. So, First, the coffee beans are ground to a certain grain size. After that, a defined amount of the coffee powder is dissolved in the NMR solvent. After filtering off the coffee grounds, the coffee extract is filled in an NMR tube. This is followed by the measurement and results in the NMR spectrum. So the next page is that. Proving the authenticity with regard to the species is possible by using only one substance. This substance is called 16-O-methoxyphosphate, and it's only present in Canephora coffee, whereas Arabica coffee contains only traces of this substance. Based on the NMR spectrum of an Arabica and Canephora coffee, the signal of 16-O-methoxyphosphate is clearly visible in the spectrum of the Canephora coffee, but there is no signal here in the spectrum of the Arabica coffee. The signal is produced by these 3 hydrogen nuclei, and with this method it is possible to detect an addition of already 2 to 3% Canephora coffee to an Arabica. Proving the authenticity of the species is also possible with the non-targeted analysis. Here, all components of the coffee are recorded without knowing what exactly they are. Since individual components vary in different coffees, the NMR spectrum is specific to one coffee. This results in a chemical fingerprint. In this study, it could be shown that the water-soluble substances of an Arabica coffee produce a chemical fingerprint which is specific to the Arabica coffee and which is significantly different from that of the Canephora coffee. With statistical analysis of the NMR spectra, it can be figured out by which components they differ. And in this study here, they could be figured out that Arabica and Canephora differ by different amounts of acetic acid, caffeine, formic acid, and trigonelline. Also, the CVUA in Karlsruhe investigated the differentiation of the species. This was done for green coffee beans and the roasted ones, and the figure here shows that the separation of the species. Just take a short break. The figure shows that the differentiation of the 2 species was successful for the green coffee beans and the roasted ones. For example, this figure here shows all measured coffees, and the NMR spectra of the roasted Arabica coffee beans were similar, which results in a similar chemical fingerprint. And so the Arabica coffee beans are close together within one cloud. The same applies to the Canephora coffee, but may the coffees have been roasted with different roasting profiles or have been treated different after harvest, and this is reflected in a slightly different fingerprint, which explains the scattering here. With statistical analysis, it could be figured out that the green coffee beans could be separated because of different amounts of sucrose and caffeine, whereas the roasted coffee beans could be separated because of different amounts of formic acid, trigonelline, and caffeine. The determination of the geographical origin is important because the quality of the coffee is greatly influenced by climate and soil. There is an increasingly interest of customers for high quality and mono-origin food products. So, furthermore, it is important to identify wrong-labeled products for economic reasons. So this study shows that it is possible to assign coffees to the continent because the chemical fingerprint of the coffees from one continent is specific. In this study, 40 roasted Arabica coffee beans from America, Africa, and Asia were investigated. And again, the figure shows all measured coffees. The coffees from one continent have a similar chemical fingerprint, so they are close together within one cloud. And for example, the coffees from America are coming from many different countries, or again have been roasted with different roasting profiles, which explain the scattering. The next step was to differentiate coffees harvested in Colombia from those harvested in other countries. Here, methanol was used for extraction, and the figure here shows that the differentiation was successful. The chemical fingerprint of the coffees from Colombia are close together, whereas the chemical fingerprints of the coffees from other origins are very diffuse. This could be maybe these coffees are coming from many different countries. Statistical analysis showed that the differentiation was possible because of different amounts of fatty acid, acetic acid, and caffeine. Even coffees harvested in different regions of Brazil could be successfully distinguished from each other by means of NMR measurement and statistical analysis. Here, water was used for extraction, and the figure shows again that the differentiation was successful. So the coffee regions, Bahia, Paraná, Sao Paulo, and Minas Gerais could successfully distinguish from each other. The dispersion here shows that the chemical fingerprints of the coffees from one region differ slightly, which may have again reasons like a different roasting profile or the use of different subspecies of Coffea arabica. The substances that led to the differentiation here were formic acid, caffeine, catechol, N-methylpyridinum, and trigonelline. In addition to the many benefits to organic agriculture, it is 8 to 25 less productive than the conventional one, which means that these products command a higher price. This and the fact that organic products are believed to be healthier makes it important to distinguish them from the conventional ones. In relation to coffee, this again can be done with nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy and statistical analysis. Again, the figure here shows that the organic and conventional products could be separated from each other. Here, the dispersion of the chemical fingerprints of the organic and conventional one is very large, which may have the mentioned reasons. The substances that led to the separation here were different amounts of fatty acids, galactopyranose, mannopyranose, trigonelline, chlorogenic acids, caffeine, and acetic acid. The next part of my presentation deals with the adulteration of coffee and the detection of certain ingredients. At the CVUA in Karlsruhe, a coffee screener was developed which quantifies different components with a simple sample preparation and a measuring time of 1 hour. So substances like furfuryl alcohol, caffeine, and 16-O-methyl-caffeistol can be quantified. The quantification can be carried out by using one signal for each substance. For example, furfuryl alcohol can be quantified by using this signal here, which is produced by this hydrogen nuclei, whereas the amount of caveol can be quantified by using this signal, which is produced by this hydrogen nuclei. Caffeine and 16-O-methyl-caffeistol can be quantified by using these two signals, which are produced by this hydrogen nuclei. The adulteration, especially the blending with non-coffee products, can also be figured out by the non-targeted analysis. In this study, pure coffee was spiked with rice, coffee husks, barley, corn, soybean, and wheat. And water-soluble substances of a pure coffee produce an NMR spectrum which was significantly different from the spiked coffee, especially in these three regions. In these regions, there are additional signals in the spiked coffee. These signals correspond to carbohydrates, such as starch, which are additionally present in the spiked coffees. And because of the different NMR spectra, the differentiation of the adulterated coffee and the pure coffee was successful. Also, the roasting degree can be studied with NMR and statistical analysis, and the roasting degree is an important step where the coffee beans are undergoing chemical changes which have a strong influence on the sensory quality. In this study, Arabica coffee beans from Colombia were roasted at 220 degrees for 3, 5, 7, and 9 minutes to reach a light, medium, and dark roasting degree. The figure here again shows that the separation of the roasting degree was successful, but with statistical analysis it could be figured out that the degradation of chlorogenic acid with the formation of quinic acid had a strong influence on the separation, and also the aroma precursor growth influenced the separation. The study showed also that trigonelline and N-methylpyridinum can act as indicator for the roasting degree. In conclusion, it can be noted that NMR is a powerful tool NMR is a powerful tool that can quantify various coffee ingredients in a short time to check the adulteration of coffee and the quality. The aim in future is to quantify additional ingredients to check the quality and to detect the addition of non-coffee products. NMR coupled with statistical analysis results in a chemical fingerprint which is specific to each coffee. This allows to check authenticity parameters such as the species, the geographical origin, the way of cultivation, or the adulteration such as blending with non-coffee products. But it is very important to measure a large number of different coffees so that the whole variance, such as a different roasting profile or the use of different subspecies, can be detected. That concludes my presentation. I would like to thank you for your attention and the NMR team in Karlsruhe for their support. Yes?
When you showed the different spectra for the Canephora and the Arabica, I hardly could see a difference in the shift and also in the peaks. So did you do the statistics by your own, and how important is the statistics? Because when you want to transfer your knowledge to whatever, a farmer who is trying to find out what he has, could you have some problem by just measuring the NMR spectrum?
Yeah, the statistic analysis is very important because there are often a lot of differences which we can't see with our eyes. It's just a statistical software who detects these differences.
And what could be here? Really some nano shifts? Or what could be here in that example between these two spectra? Where could be the difference?
For example, the Canephora coffee has a bigger amount of caffeine, less amount of formic acid and acetic acid, for example. But often we can't see it with our... Yeah, really.
If you look at 4.3, there is a peak that I think is different. That it's like double as high.
You mean this one?
This one, for instance?
Yeah, this is also trigonelline.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you could also see the one at around 2. There is one with the Arabica that is also significantly higher than with the Canephora.
And the problem is also that NMR has a linear range of like 10,000 or more. So if you zoom in, you begin to see like 10,000 of very, very small peaks, and there the differences start to become evident. So with the human eye, it's almost impossible to differentiate the spectra. But if you get this into a computer software, it will find the nuances and show them to us.
No, just as I have the same problem with polymers. So if I wouldn't have a good library, then...
So the statistic is
responsible for the separation.
So the substance has more than this one peak?
Yeah. It is like every hydrogen of the substance can produce a signal. But like Herr Lachmeier said, it is often like a very small peak and you can't really differentiate with your human eye.
Yeah, I think Dr. Brödel can also confirm that when we were looking into multi-TOF analytics, in the very beginning also we had to really zoom into some areas, but then we found some areas that were absolutely significant. But you have to have a poor guy that is looking through whatever 25,000 peaks and then finds the right area in which you find the difference. But once you know where you have to look, it's very easy. You just have to have anyone that is doing it, let's say, for a bachelor or master thesis, or if that is not enough, then for a dissertation. But there is people that will sacrifice life energy for it. Any more questions? No one? Bird. Any last questions? Peluso, maybe a special question in comparison? Okay.
Thank you.
So then, thank you very much for being here. It's always impressive to see all the research work being done by everyone, and I'm looking forward. There's new faces here that are also looking into new things. It's always great, and I think there has been a lot of advance in coffee research in the past years, actually, and seeing this provokes a lot of new questions within me, for instance. It gets me very curious to see, like, when you can already identify the different areas in Brazil, for instance, between Paraná and Bahia and everything. There will be a lot of reasons. It might even be that these are microorganisms and like fermentation results, I could imagine, because we have different microclimate and all these things are playing together in the flavor at the end of the day, and that's probably also what we can differentiate and think by collecting more and more data at the end of the day. If we have valuable data, that will most likely be the problem to find a coffee bean we can trust.
Yes.
Because it's very easy, someone gives us a bean and says this is from Kenya, while it is actually from the Philippines. So if this is the value we believe in, and we start looking into this, then we are lost. So we always have to know where do we get the trustworthy material from to kind of calibrate ourselves. I think that is one of the main things. But doing this, I'm very positive that we can understand more and more, especially when we work between the different disciplines, between different institutes, and really have a good exchange. Then this can get us tremendously forward. Okay, any last question? Normally the last question costs €100, but I would now offer this for free. No one? Mr. Lange, last question maybe?
No, everything is answered.
Okay.
Thank you.
No? So then, thank you very much, and thank you all. Just use the opportunity to also thank you again, and step in front of the camera and just tell all of our international friends that the show is over. Okay, so thank you very much. And I'll just quickly come. Yeah, now I can see me. I look beautiful. So you see, I'm wearing a mask. Yeah, going back to all time. So thank you very much, everyone, to be here, for all of our speakers. I think we had tremendous presentations all over the day. I'm very thankful you made it, despite the Corona situation. So thank you all for coming all the ways from Berlin, from Italy, from Brandenburg and Hof, and from Karlsruhe. We all really appreciate that, and especially also our large international audience following this stream. As I know, we got a lot of feedback, and this is also the last thing I would like to mention. This is it's not only a reaction on COVID-19 what we are doing here, but it's already some sort of a first experiment, and we would like to use this momentum to take also the coffee symposium, like our scientific presentation program, in an online format. And so this today for us was also a technical check what we can do and what is possible. So thank you also for our technical team that have been doing a tremendous work here in the background. And it was already much better than I remember the first streaming we did together here with Dr. Lachenmeier, when we couldn't even activate the sound, but at least you could see us like in an old silent movie. And if you had a good piano, you could play on it with it. Anyway, so there is always progress and steps forward, and we'll come back very soon with some information, because we are planning an online congress, online coffee symposium. And we'll very soon come back with that. We'll wait for feedback from our different international partners and see what can be done. So again, thank you all for being here live in Mannheim, and for being here live online. And that's it.
Thank you. If you want to join us, we are still here until 5 p.m. CET, Central European Time. So if your plane is fast enough, you can still come here. The nearest airport is Frankfurt. Otherwise, if you have a small private plane, you can also land directly here in Mannheim. Okay, thank you all. That's it. And see you soon.